We just had the post draw, and a lot of thoughts there. As I'm trying to send the post positions to my colleagues in our internet at Aqueduct, it's not working. In a shocking development. But one of the things that I will say is certainly you have to look at journalism as a big winner here. Did it go through, by the way?
Yes.
Oh, fantastic. So he draws beautifully into that number 8 hole, and maybe you don't think he's good enough. Maybe you're going to try to bet against him, but he's gotten the right sort of setup for sure with his draw. I think, certainly Citizen Bull in a tough spot in terms of drawing from that inside rail, and then Owen Almighty out in the number 20 post. That's going to be tough as well.
And Sandman drew the curse 17, which is a little interesting. I mean, Sandman's a really good horse. Obviously, you're not going to see a horse that draws 17 and automatically toss them because no one's ever won from post 17. But I don't think that it's great for him.
I don't think it's great for him either. It's going to be one of those things that I think my immediate reaction is I don't have to look at Citizen Bull anymore. All the speeds, a lot of the speed is to the inside, which is going to be interesting. It's an inside-outside dynamic. Now, this is something that is fascinating, is that when you have inside and outside speed, it ends up affecting everybody in the middle too, and they end up going too fast because your inside and your outside is going fast, and so then your middle horses end up not wanting to get pinched too far back. So on the inside, you have Citizen Bull, Neo Equus, Rodriguez, and American Promise. They all want to go, ladies and gentlemen. Now, some of them might be faster than others, and maybe might not be fast enough to compete. You got East Avenue at 12, and then you have Own Almighty at 20. And you have the Japanese, who are a little bit of an X factor, particularly admire Daytona. So
I think that honestly, what's super interesting is that Baffert drew the 1 and the 4 hole. Both of his horses are on the inside, and they're both speed horses. You really have to wonder what his game plan is going in here. Citizen Bull obviously is going to have to go. And then I'm sure that he's going to come up with his game plan based obviously on how these two drew. But I will say that I think American Promise has just enough speed to at least get into a position to sit a pocket trip. That horse does not need the lead. He can rate right off of a horse like Rodriguez, in my opinion. So I like how American Promise drew. I'm not super threatened by any of the horses, at least on his outside. And certainly I think that, Rodriguez, if he's able to get the lead, that American Promise is
Yeah, no, absolutely. Now, this is a great point made by our friend TL31. Favorite hasn't won the last 6 years. You're absolutely right, Kel. Every year you have how great the favorite is, like a broken record. Want to tell me what happened the previous 6 years before that? The favorite won every single Kentucky Derby. So maybe these things go in 6-year cycles. Maybe we're going to start another 6-year cycle where the favorites win every single time. Hey, listen, these things come and go. And it's interesting because I just got done looking at that. So it's one of those things, yes, the last 6 years, big upsets, obviously. Country House by disqualification, Mandaloon by disqualification. Oh, there's that element of it too. And then obviously with Strike. So you've had some really big upsets during that time, but it is something where, you also you've had pace meltdowns as well. So I just think looking at this, I'd expect a lot of speed. I think you're looking at a horse like Journalism sets up nicely. Burnham Square sets up nicely. Now, you might not think Burnham Square is good enough, but that's a good post position for him in post position 9. You look at a horse like Grande in 10. You and I both like that horse, Grande in 10. So I think that's one to really consider. Tistastic in 14, I think, is a good post position to have. And Cold Idol honestly got the draw that they kind of wanted. One of the commenters wanted as well, because Render Judgment and Sandman on both sides of them don't really have a lot of speed, so Cold Idol should be able to get out pretty cleanly from the gate.
Yeah, I agree. And I saw the comment. Someone said he likes American Promise. I do know that in his next start, he sat right off the Baffert horse, and then he ran him down, and he won by what, like 10 lengths?
8 lengths.
And so I think honestly, this horse has a ton of speed. All of his horses have been bullets.
Yeah,
he's very dangerous, honestly. And I'm curious what the prices are going to be. But
well, I'm very curious to see what the morning line prices are going to be. But I think American Promise has started to be a little bit of a buzz horse. I saw some of the future odds have him at about 18-1 right now. So that's something to certainly consider. I was really surprised some of the early odds had Tistastic at like 25-1. I think that's a phenomenal bet. And here's actually the morning line for everyone. And your morning line favorite, not surprisingly, is Journalism at 3-1, followed by Sovereignty at 5-1, followed by Sandman at 6-1. I'm fading the hell out of Sandman. I know that much. A lot of 30-1s, some 12-1s for Rodriguez. Kaylee's eyes are about to come out of her sockets looking at these morning lines. Which one's really sticking out to you?
Grande at 20-1.
Yeah, I think that's a good bet.
That's a really good bet. American Promise at 30-1. I'm going to hammer him in tries and supers. I might even play him in exactas. I don't know.
Yeah, I think Fantastic at 20-1 is a really good bet, honestly. There's our friend Caitlin Free with Ian Wilkes. They're going to be talking about
5-1 is a great price on Sovereignty.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think Journalism could take a lot of money, and it's going to go down from that morning line 3-1, and then it leads to, well, what happens to the other horses? And one of the things I think is important to remember is a lot of times second choice is 9-2, 5-1, 6-1. I mean, in a 20-horse field, betting is just a little bit different than it normally is. Now, one of the things you and I discussed is how much racing for the crown might impact betting a little bit, and I'm maybe more on this boat than anybody. But the Kentucky Derby is not a wise guy race. The Kentucky Derby is a race where people who don't know much about horse racing come up and they see Happy Jack. And people in the comments are being mean about American Promise, so Kaylee's very distracted right now. But people just see a horse named Happy Jack and they go, "Oh, my son's name's Jack," and they put $100 on the horse. There's no logic behind any of it, and this Racing for the Crown is going to bring a lot of people who are casual fans into racing. Who was one of the highlighted jockeys? Umberto Rispoli. Who's writing Journalism? Umberto Rispoli. I think people might make some of those connections and even render judgment, might irrationally take money because it can be peak.
I think you bring up a fair point. It'll be interesting to see. I think Sandman is the one that's going to be cut down a little bit.
He's a gray, so he's.
Yeah. I mean, and also Metallica, he's not to he's viral on social media, so he's going to take a ton of money, but it's true. I think that he's going to be, way shorter of a pace than he should be.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think so too. And so it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out.
What do you think about Owen Almighty?
Owen Almighty? I think Owen Almighty got Owen Almighty, you and I both saw, moved over the track very nicely. He's a nice looking horse. He would be a fantastic bet in the Pat Day Mile. I think he taps out at the quarter pole, and we don't hear from Owen Almighty until sometime this summer. That's what I think happens to Owen Almighty. And also it's what happens. He drew well in some ways. Because he's all the way on the outside, he can use that speed.
That's a crazy comment. I'm so sorry. Sovereignty in all of his races was up against a track that did not set up for him. He had trips that did not set up for him. He was not fully cranked in his last start. They did not need to win that. Belmont is not the type that's going to let that horse go all out in his start before the Derby, saving everything for the Derby. Sovereignty, yes, I will say he's going to have to work out a trip from where he draw, but do I have many doubts that he won't be able to? No, he's worked out trips when things have not set up for him multiple times, and I think that, I think I like it better even than him drawing obviously to the inside. Not for nothing. I think that he could be able to work out a trip. I don't think that it's a given, but you can't say that he's not as strong of a closer when he literally closed on a track that plays for speed.
Yeah, no, that's true. The Gulfstream Park track, very well known for setting up for speed. And the more impressive effort was 1-2 back in the Fountain of Youth, where he tracked down River Thames right at the wire. Although River Thames maybe got a little immature there right before the wire, but still, that was the short stretch and everything. So, listen, all these closers are going to have the pace set up. Whether you're talking about Fantastic, whether you're talking about Sandman, whether you're talking about Sovereignty, they all are going to have the pace set up. Whether you talk about Trunk of Gold, who I think draw 19, that's kind of tough for that horse. But Flying Mohawk, Final Gambit, these are all closers. So they're all going to get, yes, there's a lot of speed. The interesting part is, and I was kind of making this point on a couple of videos, not a lot of horses in the middle. We have a lot of speed horses and we have a lot of closers. It's the horses in the middle that I think might get the right trip because they're going to get the jump on the closers and they're not going to get sucked up into the speed. I'm really interested in really looking at the race and going, who's going to sit 8th? Who's going to sit 10?
Grande.
That's the name, I think.
That one is pretty insane. I think that horse, honestly, he just moved up a lot on my list. I mean, he was always high. We saw him in person. We're both very impressed by the amount of ground he gave up. Was a good Memorial, and I think honestly, he has a pretty good shot.
Our friend Mark Capitan over on the wrong lead says Cold Battle sits the trip right. Good. I mean, that's 16. He's going to get out clean, and I think Cold Battle has enough that it is one of those things where he's got enough speed where he doesn't need to sit. He's not. He's going to sit a similar trip to Grande, and then it's just a matter of is he good enough, and he needs to improve off that 91 buyer speed.
Yeah,
I mean that's for sure.
I love Cold Battle. I really hope that he's able to work out the trip so long as he cuts out cleanly. I mean, that horse is one in a multitude of ways. So who knows? But I mean, it's pretty interesting that the two Japanese horses are right next to one another. I wonder if that's ever happened in the past. I definitely
know it has. I mean, we clearly have two Japanese runners in the race, and so
I think that they'll make each other more comfortable being next to each other in the gate.
Well, they tend to be head cases. I mean, just because it's a whole new environment and a whole different gate loading process in the United States and in North America than it is in Japan. So they tend to be a little bit more anxious and they can get a little bit more worked up. So the fact that they can stay right next to each other is probably, to your point, a good thing. And what's this? Any draw is so bad, an owner may want to drop out. The easy answer is Owen Almighty, right?
I think so. I mean,
but they're the ones who fought to get back in it. I mean, they were supposed to.
I think they're sending that horse no matter what.
I mean, I think it's gosh. I mean, these people, and I feel bad for Brian Lynch because he had this with Classic Causeway and got the horse taken away and went to Kenny and ran in there. And the horse got a great one-off eventually, but I mean, Classic Causeway is just never the same after that. And it is one of those things where it's interesting. That sovereignty is maybe not as much of a closer as Sandman. Here's my thing: Sandman's got to learn how to run in a straight line, and that's going to be a problem in the Kentucky Derby with 20 other horses because he couldn't do it in the Arkansas Derby. And I don't know if Jose Ortiz is going to feel very confident trying to get him inside. And at 17 post position, what I think is going to end up happening is that horse is going to be caught 3-4 wide around both turns, and it's going to try to make a run because he's talented. But he's going to flatten out, and he's going to finish sixth or something like that. Like, that's what I could foresee the sort of trip percent, in my opinion.
Where does Flying Mohawk draw?
Flying Mohawk can rate too, yeah. So if Flying Mohawk drew in the 11 post, so good post. Good, yeah, that is a good post for Flying Mohawk. I like Whit Beckman a lot. Hey, what horse did he have last year? Honor Marie, there we go. And so had that horse, I keep calling a she, despite it not being a she. But something name your horse or something appropriate. And so Luxor Cafe could sit in the middle position. He's absolutely right. I've watched some of those races in Japan with Luxor Cafe, the Hyacinth, and as well as the last one out. And that horse can rate. Reminds me a little bit of Forever Young and Dermo Sotogake in that they don't need the lead. They have good speed. They're not deep closers. So I think, again, from that post position 7, could sit, I think, a pretty interesting trip. And yeah, this is one point where you and DJ Witt agree. I don't know why he needs to go to the Pate Mile. I think that's pretty obvious. So, we obviously just had a lot of discussion about all of this. Big picture takeaway: journalism's there's no reason to get off journalism if you liked him from the start. If you don't want to bet the favorite in the Kentucky Derby in a 20-horse race, I get it, and I don't blame him. He's not going to be my top pick, but the post position worked out great. If you like any of the speed horses, I don't love the way the post for a lot of those people. They're all outside speed. That can lead to an aggressive pace. It'll be interesting to see.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting to see.
And Bob, welcome back, Bob. As Andrew Champagne said, he put Citizen Bull in one hole. Although that saves me the time of having to really dive into Citizen Bull.
I don't know. I really have to dig in this is just, I think that there's so many layers to how all these horses grew, like you just said. I think journalism is really the only one in here that you can't say, all right, at least I'm like 0.1%. Like there's some of them that you're like slightly more skeptical of, maybe not a ton, but you're gonna, dig deeper in on like a horse like American Promise, who I really, really like. But that is I think he has good enough speed, but I'm gonna have to really dig in and see, look at those horses on his inside and his outside as
Yeah.
well. But Journalism and Grande, I think, are the two that I like just as much, really.
Yeah. I think Grande is definitely the horse that I like quite a bit in this space. And I think that, if he get 20-1 on Grande, I think that's a good deal. And I think he's going to set the right sort of trip. Diane brings up a great point about track conditions. And like I said, there's going to be a lot of rain Friday, Saturday, or I should say Wednesday, Thursday, and then a little bit Friday on Oaks Day. And then it's going to be relatively cool weather on Saturday. So I don't know how quickly that track's going to dry out if the high's only 51 degrees. And so you could have a little bit of like a good track. It probably won't be muddy at that point. It'll be good, but that's a wet track. And so seeing how horses deal with a little bit of moisture all over the track, particularly a horse maybe like Journalism coming in from the West Coast, has never dealt with an off track before. We'll see. Certain pedigrees are better for that than others. You always talk about the Tappets and the Uncle Mo's and, these types of horses that tend to like that sort of track condition. How, in our opinion, it upgraded a horse like Blessed the Broken in the Oaks.
Definitely.
There's going to be some horses that are upgraded because of the slop in this race, too.
Like American Promise.
Who broke his maiden over a muddy sealed track. And
his dad won the first 2 legs of the Triple Crown that way, too.
Absolutely. So, no, it's going to be a lot of fun. It will be fascinating if Baeza gets in. So that's a great question from Real Steve. So what happens if Baeza draws in? What happens is, let's say the easiest one would be if Owen Almighty scratches, then Baeza just moves into 20. But what would essentially happen is, let's say East Avenue scratches for some reason in post position 12. Everybody moves down a slot. And then Baeza will always draw post position 20. So it will always be on the far outside in that regard. So that is kind of how they'll do that. And we'll obviously keep you posted. And we'll just have to kind of wait and see. And Paul brings up a good point about, Curlin being the influence there for Journalism. And so, and out of an Uncle Mo mare. So again, plenty of wet track pedigree there. It's just he's never faced it before. And so that's just more of a question of, how does he handle it the first time? And especially working out in California where, they get rain sometimes and they get a lot of significant rain occasionally. But it is interesting just to see some of these East Coast horses maybe has a little bit more experience running over wet tracks, muddy tracks, things like that. So going to be an interesting race. Yeah. Only clear conviction in this segment is Quiet Side is worth a big shot. I think so. And I'll give you another one. I think Grande's worth a big shot too. I really like Grande a lot in the Derby. I think that horse, I think Tistastic. I think I'm landing on those two as my top. I know you're less bullish on that horse, and that's fine. We do not have to share a brain on this. But listen, appreciate everybody tuning in. I think, like I said, a lot of reactions to take, a lot of takeaways that we're going to have up here on NYRA Bets over the next couple of days. We're going to have a Derby preview. We're going to have an Oaks preview. We're going to have capping the card for all of the races, all 13 races on Kentucky Oaks Day. We're going to break it down. We're going to look at it. All 14 races on Kentucky Derby Day. We're going to take a look at it as well. So those are what we're going to do. That in addition, we're going to continue our Spotlight series. We're going to have a load of different content on social media as well, because we got a chance to talk to people at Coolmore, and they have just a couple of significant sires in the form of American Pharaoh, Justify, Tiz the Law, who have 4 runners in this year's Kentucky Derby between the 3 of them. So we're going to have a lot of great content for you. And remember, if you're not signed up on NYRA Bets yet, you got to sign up. What are you doing? So if you haven't signed up for NYRA Bets, use the promo code DERBY25. You get up to a $200 deposit match bonus. Now, here's the thing. If you deposit $10 the first time, you're only going to get $10 back. You got to deposit a lot of money to get a lot of money back. That's the way that works. But in addition to the deposit match bonus, you get a free $25. You can bet it on anything. You want to bet it tomorrow at Aqueduct on Cornucopian? You can do that. I would not advise you to do that, but you could do that because Cornucopian is going to be about 1 to 5. And so you can turn your $25 into about $28. But, I think it is, it's a great promo. So make sure to use that promo code Derby25 if you're signing up for the first time on NYRA Bets. Appreciate everybody's kind words. We're absolutely going to go get ourselves a drink, Machete. I appreciate the comments. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Andrew. Thank you, Leslie, for tuning in. Thanks to my dad for tuning in as well. By the way, Andrew, my dad liked your comment about welcome back, Bob. He texted that to me. So just a little multi-modes of communication here. Appreciate everybody tuning in. Like I said, make sure to press the like button and subscribe to NYRA Bets YouTube today. We got a lot of great content here on the channel. It's going to continue throughout the week. It's going to continue through the Preakness, the Belmont, Saratoga, the Breeders' Cup. We got you covered all year round. All right, Kaylie, I've been doing a lot of yammering. Final thoughts from you.
Final thoughts. I mean, I think we really hit it. Journalism looks great after the draw. Grande looks great after the draw. I'm still going to use American Promise in some way. And I am so high on Quiet Side, and I cannot wait to bet her to win on Oaks Day.
If it rains, I'm putting a lot of money on Bless the Broken at 30 to 1.
I'm probably going to do a little. I'm definitely including Bless the Broken. 100%. The rain is going to move her up significantly, too.
I think,
she's working like a monster, too.
She is. And I'm tossing Lucara. All right. That's enough. That's enough for me. All right. Listen, folks, appreciate everybody tuning in. Have a great day. For Kaylie Shapiro, my name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and prosperous day at the races and reminding you, friends, it's now post time.